And in sports, the Amputee League is set to start at the end of February 2020 after it was postponed in December 2019. Good evening. This is Capital News at 9:30. My name is Vanessa Victor. Let's start things off with the national news. Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa has called on Tanzanians living in valley areas to vacate them immediately, as the government will not help those affected by floods who defy the directive. Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa gave the directive in Lindi when addressing residents after visiting Kilwa, Lindi and Ruangwa districts in the region which have been affected by floods.
Hakuna shida. Kama Watanzania mahitaji muhimu yote yatakuja, hata umeme utakuja.
You must not go back to the high-risk areas, and this applies to the whole country. You must do this for your own safety. Regional commissioners must supervise this. All of you must settle in high-raised areas, and I know now you see the importance of doing so.
Sasa hapa tunapata makazi mapya. Tunashukuru serikali imetusaidia.
We have been allocated a new place to stay, of which we are very grateful. In addition, we've been provided with food. However, there is inadequate water supply. We have no food. Everything was swept in the floods. I asked the government to help us for these difficult days until we're able to farm again.
Tanzania Roads Agency, TANROADS in Tabora region has closed down indefinitely the Tabora-Dodoma road, which goes through Itigi due to flooding of River Kizengi. The situation has caused motorists to go through Nzega, Igunga and Singida Road to Dodoma.
The problem is obvious in areas where bridges are still under construction, where water passes over the bridge. It is very dangerous to pass there because of the amount of water flowing over the bridge. Travelers have been advised to use Nzega Road until the rains are over. It is best that people remain patient during this period.
Motorists using the Tanzam Road from Beira and other areas to Dar es Salaam have been called on to drive carefully as ongoing rains have destroyed a big segment of the road at Imanlutwa area in Ilula district. The call was made by Iringa Region Commissioner Ali Hapi after visiting the area to inspect the damage caused by the rains.
Barabara hii ya Tanzam ni barabara ambayo ni ya kimataifa.
Tanzam Road is an international road. All vehicles coming from Dar es Salaam, Beira, Tunduma, Malawi all pass here. If road communication breaks down, then there are bigger implications to our economy. That is why we have decided to control this situation where at least vehicles will have to pass on one side of the road until our fellows from TANROADS manage to repair the other side of the road, which has been affected by the rains.
Hadi pale ambako wenzetu wa TANROADS watakapokuwa tayari wameweza kudhibiti na kutengeneza upande ambao umelika na maji.
The ongoing rains falling in various parts of the country have also damaged road infrastructure on Ngorongoro Crater, inconveniencing tourists who are visiting the area. The Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Tourism is among government leaders who have visited the area to inspect the destruction caused by the rain on road infrastructure at the World Heritage Site.
Although it is an adventure, a lot of time is wasted on the road, and unfortunately, our guests always complain on the amount of time wasted.
Inabidi tuendelee kuwekeza kuimarisha miundombinu kama hii.
More investment is needed to be done in the infrastructure sector around here, although the problem is not that bad because vehicles are still passing through. I think as an authority and the ministry responsible, improvements will be done These problems have been caused by ongoing rains.
Toka afa akachelewa sana kurudi kwa sababu barabara hazipitiki. Hii changamoto imetokana na mvua kubwa sana.
Parliament has cautioned the government to carefully review contracts with oil and gas exploration companies which are seeking licenses in order to get competitive companies which will enable the country to benefit from the resources. This was said in Dodoma by the chair of the Energy and Minerals Parliamentary Committee, Dastan Kitandula, when tabling his committee's report in Parliament. The Foreign Affairs, East Africa and Defence and Security Committee also tabled its report, and while debating it, some members of Parliament raised concern on the challenges encountered in getting national identification cards.
Mheshimiwa Spika, pamoja na umuhimu wa kuhuisha leseni husika kwa
Honorable Speaker, despite of the importance of completing license registration on time, if procedures will be overlooked, then there are some consequences to be faced in the future. Unfortunately, government decisions have impact in attracting investors. If the government will not release licenses on time, it might result in losing potential investors in this sector.
Ugumu wa upatikanaji wa vitambulisho vya taifa juu ya mfumo.
Challenges brought about by national identity cards has caused a lot of people to be reluctant to participate effectively in the registration exercise.
Na wengine kujitokeza katika hatua za mwisho.
Tanzania Railway Corporation, TRC, has said that rehabilitation of rail infrastructure damaged by ongoing rains in various parts of the country will be completed within 10 days. Speaking in Dar es Salaam, the Director General of TRC, Masanja Kadogosa, said suspension of train services which have inconvenienced many passengers has incurred them a loss of more than 1.5 billion shillings.
Landnet yetu ya kawaida revenue kwa sababu kuna hasara zinakuwa tofauti. Kuna hasara ya maana ya loss ya revenue.
Our running rate is not less than 100 million shillings every day. This means that over 100 million shillings will be lost per day if operations will be stopped. Imagine in 10 days 1.5 billion shillings will be lost. Our engineers are currently on the ground doing assessment on what is needed to reconstruct the railway lines. When I got here, I was told to come back on Tuesday because the railway line has been covered in water. I don't have any other means to carry on with traveling. Hence, I have to be patient until this problem is resolved.
And the World Bank has said relations between the government and the bank are strong and has assured Tanzania of continued cooperation in various development sectors. The assurance was given in Dar es Salaam by the country director of the World Bank, Mara Mawik, during talks with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and East Africa Cooperation, Professor Palamagamba Kabudi. On his part, Minister Professor Kabudi called on Tanzanians to ignore false reports on social media on relations between the World Bank and Tanzania.
The current status, our partnership between Tanzania and the World Bank is very strong, and we very much value the partnership. It's been a long partnership since the 1960s, all the way until today, and we value it very highly. We have a strong partnership of projects and investments where we support the government programs in many different areas, including those that I just mentioned. We also work together a lot on analytical work, on studies about important issues, including on policy developments. So this, I see, we're going to continue very much into the future, and I look forward to being a part of that partnership and leading our team to have a strong partnership with Tanzania.
Uhusiano kati ya Tanzania na Benki ya Dunia ni imara.
The relationship between Tanzania and the World Bank is good. She has assured us that it will remain so. Our relationship is sound and loan procedures are being observed. Discussions are going on. What I would like to urge Tanzanians is to refrain from information posted on social media platforms and should wait for a word from the government of Tanzania or the World Bank. And since none has spoken, then they must disregard such information as simply gossip.
serikali ya Tanzania yenyewe au za Benki ya Dunia.
14 pupils and 4 teachers from Iman Primary School in Morogoro Municipal were injured when they tried to get away renovating some buildings at the school. The pupils and teachers were rushed to Morogoro Referral Hospital for treatment after the fire and rescue force arrived at the school.
Today at 3 p.m. we were attacked by a swarm of bees we were not aware of, but they were disturbed because of some construction work going on. What we've done is to evacuate the area so that we can safely transfer the bees, which will take place in the evening. We've received 14 students and 3 teachers who were stung in various parts of the body. They have been treated and are doing well. However, 1 student has been admitted and is under observation.
And the Minister of Finance, Dr. Philip Mpango, has said that member countries of the Southern African Development Community, SADC, need to evaluate and consult on their economic trends instead of leaving the responsibility to international organizations. He made the statement in Dodoma during a meeting with a SADC delegation led by Sikumbuzo Dlamini, the Manager of Economic Policies and Statistics from Eswatini Central Bank.
We are used to seeing International Monetary Fund Organization, IMF, or World Bank monitoring our economist standards. Moreover, through SADC, African countries have agreed to conduct close monitoring of our financial sectors according to standards and challenges that we face in this sector in order to provide good services to our people.
We have noticed and observed, I think, the wonderful work that has been done to improve the business environment, to ensure we have sustainable growth and some stable macroeconomic indicators that we've noticed. There might be some impediments that we are dealing with, but we have also noted that these are some in the blueprint that we have developed as a country, and we are addressing infrastructure impediments. We're seeing railroads, we're seeing infrastructure water projects that are going to assist the Tanzanian economy over the long run.
That's all for national news. International news is next. And in international news, the late former president of Kenya, Daniel Arap Moi, is expected to be buried at his home in Kabaraka next week on Wednesday, with the funeral mass to be held at Kasarani in Nairobi before the body of the late president is taken to its final resting place.
A farmer, then he became a teacher, and then finally our great leader. So that kind of humility is something that should be worth emulating. We all remember how he used to encourage people to go back to their farms and also to be self-reliant. So if we can keep on that kind of spirit, then Musei will be remembered for many, many years to come.
Marsabit County, and indeed on behalf of Upper Eastern, we want to join all Kenyans in bringing our condolences. Mzee Moi has been a uniting factor to the nation.
Meanwhile, in Mombasa, messages of condolences on the death of the late retired president of Kenya, Daniel Arap Moi, continue to be shared by various local and international leaders, including the president of Tanzania, Dr. John Magufuli, as well as Pierre Nkurunziza of Burundi.
Bila shaka Kenya tumepoteza.
Kenya has lost a great visionary leader who gave so much of himself to lead this country, but also traveled far and wide to meet his people.
The ambassador of China in Burundi has urged students and entrepreneurs from Burundi to temporarily suspend trips to China. This move comes after the government of Burundi, through the Ministry of Health, takes cautionary measures to protect citizens against the coronavirus.
We are calling on our friends and students who are intending to go back to China to postpone their travel as well as take precaution. So far, our embassy has been giving advice to all those who seek for visas to China to wait a little bit longer. Meanwhile, Chinese who went home for leave have been directed not to come back to Burundi, and those who are abroad should be quarantined for not less than 14 days once they land in Burundi.
With the coronavirus causing great global concern and widespread medical emergencies, Germany is the most affected European country with 12 confirmed cases thus far. Thomas Sparrow, our Deutsche Welle correspondent, joins us now with more on the situation. So Thomas, what is the current situation in Germany?
German officials have indicated that individual cases could have been expected not only in Germany but also in other parts of Europe, but that the overall risk for the German and European population still remains low, and that the country and German authorities are well prepared to deal with any outbreak, in particular because Germany has a very established, long-established and well-connected set of specialized hospitals, and as such the country will be able to deal with this, according to the authorities, in a safe manner. At the same time, German authorities have asked people to take precautions, for example, wash their hands, or basically any other precaution that they would take if they thought they could get a normal flu. And they have been informing the public through various different means when it comes to the latest news that they have been getting, and also to the political reaction, because it's important to stress that Germany believes that this is not something that it can resolve on its own when it comes to the reaction so far, and as such it has tried to join forces with other European Union countries and also with the G7 group of countries to try in any way to coordinate responses when it comes to this, because it is above all something that affects the world, it affects us internationally, and it is not only something that Germany can resolve on its own.
So within that, have the quarantine measures that have been implemented by Germany been effective thus far?
It is still too early to say, but German authorities do believe that quarantine measures are a good way of preventing further infections, and that is also why some of the people, or at least those who have been confirmed to have the infection, have been in many ways isolated and are being treated by professionals, and in such case obviously German authorities have a very clear procedure as to what has to be done. Let's not forget that Germany also brought back 126 people on an Air Force plane a few days ago from Wuhan, and they brought them back to Germany, and that was also another precautionary measure from German authorities to try and help in particular those Germans who are in probably the most affected region in China.
And it's been advised, and countries have been urged to engage in data sharing to fight the virus. How is Germany responding to this?
Germany has responded by, in particular, saying, as I just mentioned, that they want to coordinate response with other countries, and that is, by the way, a very typical way for Germany to respond. It has done so on other circumstances as well, and it also believes that in this particular case, the best way of doing so, the best way of trying to resolve this, is by sharing information with other countries and trying to coordinate responses, not only when it comes to identifying information about the virus or trying to come to conclusions about it, but also when it comes to dealing with some of the patients, to trying to understand some of the symptoms. So that is why the German Health Ministry in particular has been very interested in sharing information and also sharing responses with other countries, in particular, as I said, the European Union, but also the G7.
Now, as a whole, what has the German government had to say about this virus, and in terms of how to deal with it, not only for Germany and Europe, but on a global level?
Again, German authorities have been clear that the overall risk for Germans remains low, although again they have stated that individual cases were to be expected, and they are very much aware of what consequences could come on a political level, what consequences could come on an economic level as well. There have been plenty of reports here analyzing what the economic impact of all this might be. considering that Germany and China are very important economic partners, and when you talk to analysts, when you talk to business leaders, they have remained cautious, they have remained careful, but also obviously they have also remained vigilant, trying to understand what possible impacts it might have in particular if the outbreak continues. But both from German authorities and from business leaders, what we're hearing is in many cases sort of words of caution, words of asking people to be careful, but also mentioning that there's no need to panic, that the risk, as I said, remains low according to the German Health Ministry, and that Germany is well prepared to deal with the outbreak.
Well, thank you very much, Thomas. It is very heartening to know that Germany has medical set up all in place, so it should be better to deal with than in maybe certain African countries where maybe the medical health system is not as good. And that special report ends our international news. We'll be back with business news after this break.
Watch Business Edition as we talk to business leaders and experts in sectors that are transforming Tanzania's economy.
We believe that the